My guest for the morning, Eric Akumanyi, is a member of the NDC, and he is here with me. And alongside him, we have Saka Salia, a member of the MPP's communication team. And Saka and Eric, thanks for joining me this morning. Let's touch on a subject that I know is critical and at the hearts of many issues that is in the public discourse. And government's promise to bring in 40 or 450 megawatts of power by April, by close of the month, to ease a painful power crisis could be impossible, because according to what we're getting from the newswires, it is possible that the power budgets that are expected to come from Turkey may not arrive at all. First, let me get some observation from you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Happy Good Friday to all. Yeah, I am not surprised that there is this reservation that the power budgets will not come. Indeed, when government announced that by April it would have brought these power budgets, some of us, came out and said, no, it's not possible. Especially when they were talking about these Turkey budgets coming from Turkey. Well, we said those budgets are being contracted already in Lebanon, and those budgets would the contractual agreement is up to July, so there is no way those budgets will come to Ghana by April. So if anything, at the least time that the budgets can come to Ghana is July, because it is by July that the contractual agreement between Turkey and Lebanon would have, elapsed. But I don't know who government want to please. In this particular case of Dumso, they have displeased Ghanaians for close to 4 years. So if you want to solve the problem, you need to solve the problem holistically. You don't just go giving vain promises. And the timeline that they give, everybody knew. Especially we all know that even when you bring those badges, it will take another 3 months for you to prepare the base where those badges, power badges will be anchored. And those badges has not been, those bases has not been prepared yet. Then you hear the president and his, assigns all over the place, shouting that by April we are bringing badges and all that. Apart from even this falsehood that they peddle, that it will come in April, is another thing of costs of those badges. It's so exorbitant, it does not make sense. Even though we are in crisis, if we want to do something to solving the problem, it has to be with recourse to the law. They have not done that. It's close to 250 million. And you are talking about temporal solution to a problem. And you go and contract it for 10 years. Meanwhile, we all know that this problem of this Dumso is not about all those things that they are talking about. It's about money. It's not about installed capacity. We have the installed capacity to see to it that our needs are provided. Because we in a peak hour, our peak demand is just around 2,000 megawatts of electricity. Meanwhile, we have over 2,800 installed capacity. So it tells you it is not about installed capacity, but it's about the money. Even these power badges, when they come, we will still have to provide crude oil, to power them and all that. And that one is still within the domain of government. So I think that in solving this Dumso problem, government has to be very honest. I have said it over and over, that honesty is the best policy. If you are governing a nation and you think deception is what you will use, it will come to a time nobody will believe you anymore. And that is the reason for our skepticism. And it's you see, people take position for a reason. And we have seen a lot of nebulous promises, audacious ones by government, just to please people. And when that is done, they find it very, very difficult to live up to expectation. And that is what is happening. This is, in the history of this nation, this is the worst power crisis that ever hit us. And one would have expected that by now, government would have had a solution to this problem. But it's as if they are at their dead end. They seem to be at dead end, clueless about how to solve the problem. I believe that we have the solution. A lot of people have given solutions to this power crisis. And indeed, the best solution is that you hold the integrity of the economy. If the economy is buoyant, is strong enough, you have money to buy light crude oil, to buy gas and all that. But not a situation where every now and again, government comes to tell us, to give us some reasons why it is impossible. Today, we are doing A, B, C, D. Tomorrow, something has happened at the West Africa pipe gas line and all that. Those excuses, I think that we can no longer continue to take them.
Mm. Now, we know that we need some level of financing and some level of letters of comfort, etc., for us to go in for these very badges and all. The concerns that the critics and those in civil society who have been researching into energy has been that, well, the solutions in itself that are being preferred are not the right solutions. Does it come to you as a surprise that perhaps we may not be able to bring in these very power badges at the stipulated time we had early on promised?
Thank you very much. I must say that I'm not surprised by the presentation from my colleagues from the NPP, because what should we expect? We in the NDC, first of all, sympathize with Ghanaians that as a nation we find ourselves at this critical point. We know that it's as a result of some systematic failure that we've all gotten ourselves to this point. All governments, we can't take any government out, have not paid particular attention to the energy needs of this country. We as a government have taken it upon ourselves to bring finality to these issues. And I understand the anxiety of Ghanaians because we know it's quite bad. It affects industry, it affects people and their businesses, it affects families. So we appreciate the issues, but then we want to assure Ghanaians that we are on it, we are working, and it's going to come through. I am surprised with this issue of April, and then we just entered April. I think today is the 3rd of April. So the anxiety, the expectations of Ghanaians are so high, but I know definitely once we said April, let's allow for the month to elapse. I've been monitoring the media, and then everybody seems to be picking up this issue about April, and it's as if some people are just praying that it just doesn't happen. And I know Saka and his team in the MPP are just praying so they can get a campaign message, because they've not been able to raise any substantive issue to the Ghanaian people. So we are very certain that it's going to come true. We are going to make sure it happens. So Ghanaians should just give us time. By the time April ends, we'll definitely see the clear picture. When we came to power, we had a lot of issues. And Saka is here, he can tell us how many megawatts they add to the national energy demand. What did they do?
I'll tell you.
What did they do? Because per the records, they did nothing. And that's the reason why we find ourselves here. Because even in Nkrumah, with all his wisdom with the construction of Akosombo, solving the needs of energy, was still thinking of nuclear. You looked at the very immediate needs of getting power to save yourself for the election, and then you left behind a very weak situation for us when it comes to energy. We have come in, the issue has reoccurred. We are most depending on Akosombo, and we are working to make sure these things get worked out. As at the time I checked yesterday, some gas is coming from Abuazi Tema, it's coming from the gas processing plant. And we are very certain we are going to have this issue taken through. So the issue is we just entered April and people are all just talking like that, demanding, but we are very certain the issues are going to be solved by the end of April. It's as if some people are praying this doesn't happen, so they say, we said it.
But do you understand, Eric, that practically you need to have the power budgets come in. We also need to make sure the installations are undertaken, and those things don't take a day or two.
I don't think we ever said that by April we're going to end the power crisis.
What did you say? No, the power budgets.
Yes.
So by May, people should be expecting augmented power.
Yes, because we know by April we're going to bring in the badges. We'll do the installations and then we'll work towards.
So you think that people are just being preemptive about
Very, very preemptive, and I don't think it's helping our cause as a state, because this is a situation that requires a holistic approach in terms of addressing it. And that's what we are doing. They have failed. They have failed to give
governance is not sympathy, is it?
Not sympathy per se, but we are in this boat together. It affects all of us. It affects industry, it affects healthcare, it affects almost every facet of our being as people. So we are working at it. But then they failed, and I expect them to come out, to appreciate the failures they have left behind in terms of giving us piecemeal approach in addressing the energy situation.
He asked me a question that all governments, first of all, he said all government failed in addressing the energy needs of the country. And he said the NPP did not do anything, according to him. First of all, let me tell you.
I know he's going to mention Bui.
If you know, then why?
No, because we took over Bui and ensured that Bui came on stream. You understand? So apart from Bui, give us something else.
Please.
Apart from Bui.
Please. We have done a lot in the energy sector. He talked about the Bui dam, which gives us 400 megawatts, which is supposed to give us 400 megawatts. But for what they did, we cannot give us 400 megawatts. And you talk of Asogli, Sonny Asogli. It was under the MPP regime that the MPP brought this policy of independent power producers. Then we brought in Sonny Asogli. Today, Sonny Asogli is giving us 200 megawatts of electricity.
Well, we do understand the figures you are giving us, Saka, but we have on the line Ishmael Ejekumhene. He's the executive director for KITES, and they are into research, advocacy, consultancy as far as energy is concerned. And we're grateful to have you, Ishmael. But to what length can we authenticate the reports we're getting in the media that government is likely not to meet its own deadline of when the power budgets from Turkey will be in the country?
Good morning, Roland.
Good morning.
I think in terms of looking for an authentication, the plans haven't even set sail. So, I mean, it's clear that the deadline wouldn't be met. If there's any evidence to the contrary, then I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, they are trying to get all the letters of comfort sorted out, and I don't think they've quite managed to do that. So I don't think the plans have set sail, which definitely means that the April deadline will be missed.
Ideally, which length of time would it take for fares, shipping? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ideally, which length of time would it take for first shipping in these barges and trying to install them to make sure that we get additional power?
I understand it should be taking something like between 30 and 60 days. I mean, that's what I understand. But you see, everything about this emergency power plant is shrouded in so much secrecy that nobody knows, because in this era, in the shipping industry, you could track everything online to know where the barges are, but nobody knows even what contracts. And so, yeah, technically, it should take between 30 and 60 days. Some people say 90 days for this to arrive. But, I mean, my checks indicate that they haven't set sail. So, but obviously, April, we cannot meet the April deadline.
How feasible is it that we bring in power barges and ultimately they become means by which we can augment power supply?
I have a suspicion that if what we're hearing is true, that we've signed an agreement for 5 renewable for another 5, making it 10. Then I have a suspicion that they intend keeping the barges as strategic reserve plans, so that we only pay when we use them. So otherwise, nobody can justify why we will get emergency power plants for between 5 and 10 years. But having any additional generation that we can fall on in the situation that we find ourselves in, it should be welcomed. Except that, once again, if you're trying to look for quick fixes, then you end up paying more. That's why it's important that we get to know the agreements and the way these badges are being brought in. But to have them around will definitely be a welcome addition.
I've had experts like your organization and those in your organization and even those from ASAP, etc., question even the short-term approaches that we're even adopting. By your own observation and expertise, I've been chasing. Do you think that the short-term approach we're using to resolve the difficulty we're having with our energy supply in the short term is the right approach?
We don't have another option because I think we've said over and over again that to have a thermal plan between minimum 24 months. So if we need solutions for the short term, that's between 3-6 months, then the budgets appears to be the only solution that we have, the emergency budget. But again, let's act now, because any day that we delay this whole thing, we are postponing the problem. You see, so apart from importing power through Cote d'Ivoire, which used to be a very reliable option, we have to get an emergency power plant, or we have to build our own power plant. So it looks like what the options they are resorting to are the most feasible ones under the current circumstances.
Now, 450 megawatts we're told that we're going to get from these very barges. Looking at the financing as far as this is concerned, as enshrined in the agreement, do you think that it's value for money?
Unfortunately, Roland, as I've said, I haven't seen the agreement, so I wouldn't be able to. But in terms of, and I'm not too sure anybody has seen it, but if what we are hearing is anything to go by, then obviously there wouldn't be value for money. But you see, when you are negotiating from a very, very weak position like we find ourselves at the moment, any prudent businessman would want to take advantage of you because you are in a crisis. You remember in 2007 we had to pay something like $110 million for the emergency power plants that we brought in. Under normal circumstances, we wouldn't have paid that. If there's a crisis, everybody takes advantage of that. You know, I mean, you saw how the private sector wanted to take advantage of even Ebola. So as for the private sector, they are always looking for opportunity. They see every problem as an opportunity to make money. So that's the thing. We can't be talking about value for money if we are doing emergency. In an emergency, people take advantage of that because unless you have other budgets sitting somewhere that you can go for, then you don't have a choice, you know.
Okay.
So, yes, but what we need to be sure of is that even with this agreement, if we're going to be allowed to look at it, is it the best that we could have gotten? That's something that we don't seem to be learning. We keep keeping things to ourselves. And if Parliament is asking for this agreement and even Parliament says they haven't seen it, then where does that leave even some of us who are not members of Parliament? So let them give us the agreement, let them make it public so that we scrutinize it. But it looks as if that is already a done deal, and we are only waiting for the budgets to come in.
Okay.
Let the budgets come in, and let's see how it goes.
Well, we hope that these will come in, and at least we'll be relieved of the current difficulties that the whole population is going through. But now we're being told, according to the last few hours, what we've been monitoring, that for the Easter period, we're going to get some power from Cote d'Ivoire. That's the best approach. Can we say we have to extend this into a long-term period?
You see, Roland, that's something that we all don't understand. If indeed Cote d'Ivoire they have power to give to us, then it's cheaper than any temporary solution that we're looking for. And in fact, we used to import as much as, in some cases, 200 megawatts from Cote d'Ivoire. We've ever done that before. If they have the capacity, my suspicion is that the Cote d'Ivoire themselves wouldn't be able to supply us with this power for a long time. So maybe we arrange with them and say, oh, for these 3 days, can you spare us some megawatts so that we can deal with the problem? But if indeed they have power to supply, then we don't understand why we shouldn't sign a long-term. In any case, there is a long-term agreement between Cote d'Ivoire. We have this intertie where they take power from us. We also give them power depending on who has more and who doesn't have it. Okay, so it is not something new but it depends on availability. Sometimes if we have excess capacity, Côte d'Ivoire, the system is such that they call it an intertie, so power can flow in opposite directions. But I believe that we can't do it beyond the 3 days because they probably don't have enough to be helping us solve this problem. But you see, there's a signal we send and the impression that we create that, look, we can find power when we need power to be given to the people. If that is true, then why would you say that people should have power just to celebrate Easter, celebrate Christmas, watch football, when industries are collapsing, when businesses are collapsing? I don't get it. So there isn't any justification for them to even give us power during Easter. During Christmas, people, in fact, industry were actually asked to shut down so that we can have power to watch television and party and things like that. We need to set our priorities right. We need power, but we don't have to get power only for people to celebrate Easter.
Okay.
You know, but I have a suspicion that Côte d'Ivoire themselves can supply us beyond the 3 days or the 1 week that they normally would come in and help us.
All right, thank you very much. And we've been speaking to the Executive Director for KITE, and Ishmael Ejekumhene has been on the line with us. Now, your reactions?
Yeah, I was making a point. I think that he has made a lot of valid points. But back to my brother, when he said the NPP did not do enough, I mentioned to him the Bui Dam, I mentioned to him the Sonny Asogli, I mentioned to you the reserve, the mines reserve plants that they brought. That gives us about 80 megawatts of electricity. Indeed, we brought in strategic reserve plants. That gives us 126 megawatts of electricity. Just about a month ago, this same government, under this doomsday condition, had to send these reserve plants to Sierra Leone for what we don't know. Because if you use these reserve plants, it can cater for about quarter of Accra. And that gives us 126 megawatts of electricity. And in such a crisis situation, you decided that the best solution you can offer to Ghanaians is to send them to Sierra Leone. What is the Sierra Leoneans going to use it for? Are they not also going to use it for electricity? That tells you the sort of mindset of this particular government. We talk about a whole lot. Look at the Pong power plant. It was MPP that brought it. The Pong.
I'm talking about the vitrification that you did.
No. The what? No, not the retrofittation was done on the Akosombo Dam. When we had an extra over 50 megawatts of electricity out of the retrofittation. Then again, apart from all these things that I mentioned to you, we have other installed, like the Zakem one. The Zakem, these people came, they decided that they will stop the project. And the project has to stop, and it was just recently that they asked that they should go back. And even that one, they are unable to pay them for the contract, and the contract sum has doubled. Apart from all these things, the West Africa gas pipeline that we are talking about, anytime there is no gas, then Ghanaians go to sleep in darkness. Was it not Kufuor that pay 15% of our equity share to the Nigerians? These are some of the prudent measures that Kufuor put in. Look at the Sint plant. Apart from that, the T3 project. Then you come and sit here and say Kufuor didn't do anything. What has John Mahama done in terms of this energy crisis? He has done absolutely nothing apart from the rhetorics.
Okay, Saka.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think he's forgetting that we are looking at a very holistic approach to the energy issue. We are focusing on our own gas processing plant, which yesterday I said was producing at commercial level. And this is something that we have thrown so much resources into to ensure that we have holistic approach, that we are not at the behest of Nigeria, so that whenever they cut supply of gas, we don't find ourselves wanting. And this is what we are doing. So if you want to know what John Mahama has done, that's what I'm pointing you to.
That project has delayed.
Definitely, because
but the plan put in the project was supposed to finish by 2011.
They said they were going to give us commercial production, and as yesterday it was producing.
It's too late in the day.
It's producing. So very soon, like I said earlier, we understand. But the problem, like I said, is a systemic failure. within the whole energy sector, no government can be exempted. And Kufuor himself and their government did very little. So they are the last people I expect to come out to attack us. But what we are saying is that we are giving a holistic approach to this. We are giving a holistic approach, and we're very certain that with the gas plants coming on board, we are going to make sure that all the barges that are coming in is going to perform. We're going to have available gas. And you know, producing on gas is cheaper. It's about 6% cheaper than crude. And that's what it means. And possibly the likelihood of we paying very little for energy use. You understand? So Ghanaians should be rested. We just said April. This 3rd of April. And the whole anxiety and the skepticism and the bad mood with which the expectations are going, it's not something going on.
Well, it's getting tonight. We'll have to wrap up our discussion. But do you trust the approach by government to resolve?
No, I have never trusted.
Oh, you expect him to say you trust the approach of government? Wait. Because this is his message. This is why he's taking into the elections. When he's saying that he trusts the approach of government.
You don't want me to talk.
No, but I'm
saying that. Not me.
Saka, I know
Ghanaians do not trust this government a bit.
No.
They have shown by their deeds and action that they cannot be trusted. Oh. Look at this situation. We have been in for interminable 3.5 years. Any government worth its salt would have solved this problem. Look at the fallout of this energy crisis. Look at the number of job cuts. And then you still have a government that still have the temerity to come and tell Ghanaians that I will solve the problem, when in 3.5 going to 4 years, you are unable to give us a clue as to how you solve this problem. This is the most insensitive and clueless government ever.
Roland, I just point to the gas processing plant that we are fixing.
Now, if
he is very
Eric, if you fail on
but even the gas, who brought the oil? It's not Kufuor that brought the oil.
Oh, please. When you were looking at
fail on this very time,
in our laws,
you were looking at
the laws of this nation.
You were looking at flaring the gas.
The laws of this nation do not allow any to
gentlemen,
you were looking at flaring.
Unfortunately, I have to wrap up for the show. And I have had in the studio Eric Akomenyi, and he is a member of the NDC's communication team, and also Saka Salia with the NPP. And thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll be right back.